This week on Culture Q, we're taking a look back at all of our favorite Culture Q moments from this year, from big wins for LGBTQ representation to the stories that inspired us most. I'm Lalwani, and welcome to some of our favorite moments from Culture Q in 2021. 2021 was an amazing year to be a queer nerd, and our first story up is a total celebration of that. From Marvel to DC, let's look back at the characters who made this story one of our favorites. Last week, DC Comics released a new issue of Nubia and the Amazons, a Wonder Woman adjacent project, and revealed the first Amazonian trans character. The character, named Bia, is a black trans woman serving as a fierce warrior on Paradise Island, and is set to play an exciting role in the new story. The comics writer Stephanie Williams tweeted, "Bia will have a role beyond just existing. She's a fully fledged character that is important to her community, just as black trans women are important to us in real life." And for all the haters out there, OG Wonder Woman Linda Carter has a message. Trans women are Wonder Woman. End of story. This news just comes weeks after the new Superman, Clark Kent's son, John Kent, was revealed to be bisexual ahead of the upcoming issue of Superman, Son of Kal-El. Following in his father's footsteps of dating journalists, the new installment will see Kent strike up a same-sex romantic relationship with reporter Jay Nakamura. And the news was met with a lot of excitement alongside the typical amount of conservative whining, but Amber Ruffin said,
"If a comic book character being bisexual ruined your childhood was trash to begin with."
But the sweep of the gay tide is not just happening in the DC Comics universe, it's happening in the industry as a whole. In Marvel's upcoming film, The Eternals, we'll see Brian Tyree Henry as Phastos, the first openly gay hero, joining the Marvel Cinematic Universe. At the film's premiere, Kevin Feige, the mastermind behind the Marvel Cinematic Universe, shared his excitement about the new direction of this upcoming batch of Marvel films.
There have been gay heroes before in the comics. It is more than pastime in the movies, and it's just the start.
We've already seen Tom Hiddleston's Loki confirm his bisexuality in the Disney Plus series, and are set to see more queerness on screen by characters like Tessa Thompson's Valkyrie in the upcoming Thor: Love and Thunder, and Xochitl Gomez as lesbian superhero American Chavez in Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. And Bicon Kristen Stewart, who recently expressed interest in playing a female Joker. She had this to say about all the fanboys who aren't on board with this new inclusive future for heroes.
"If you're happier and more comfortable looking in the rear view mirror, that is where we will leave you, bruh."
While a lot of superheroes came out over the course of this season, so did a lot of celebrities. And months later, one particularly is still giving us all the thrills and chills. Here's our look at Elvira, Mistress of the Dark's electrifying coming out of the coffin story.
In her new memoir, Yours Cruelly, Elvira, Peterson revealed that she's been in a previously undisclosed 19-year relationship with another woman, Teresa T. Weirson. She shared that the relationship began when the two crossed paths at Hollywood's Gold's Gym. You know, as things happen in Hollywood, and she thought she'd found the bad boy of her dreams. That's when she went into the locker room and discovered the bad boy was actually a bad girl. A friendship between her and Weirson blossomed, and it eventually became romantic after Peterson ended a 25-year marriage with her manager, Mark Pearson. And that was surprising to Peterson because she had never been in love with a woman before. She writes, "I felt so confused. This just wasn't me. I was stunned that I'd been friends with her for so many years and never noticed our chemistry. I soon discovered that we connected sexually in a way I'd never experienced." Over the past 19 years, Weirson has taken on the role of Peterson's assistant, and they've kept their relationship quiet for fear that going public might hurt the Elvira brand. She wondered, would my fans hate me for not being what they expected me to be? In her memoir, she writes, "I'm very aware that there will be some who will be disappointed and maybe even angry, but I have to live with myself. And at this point in my life, I've got to be truthful about who I am." And we're so happy that she did just that. And guess what? Her fans were far from disappointed. Novelist Kristen Arnett tweeted, "Elvira is queer, God is real," as well as the self-reply, "Would like a time machine to inform 13-year-old closeted Kristen." This journalist tweeted, "Elvira really said, and in case you needed to hear it again, horror is queer."
Horror may have gotten a lot queer this season, but so did the music awards, if that's even possible. One history-making moment at this year's BET Awards still has us feeling a little hot and bothered. Let's take a look back at Lil Nas X and the makeout sesh that was felt across the world.
While many were disappointed Lil Nas X wasn't even nominated, that didn't stop him from taking the stage, performing his hit track, Montero, Call Me By Your Name, and a tribute to Michael Jackson's Remember the Time. Dressed in an Egyptian-style costume, he did not hold anything back and delivered a moment that will live on in music history. The hot kiss between him and his backup dancer garnered support from fans, while others, aka the homophobes, called him out, including this tweet: "Don't use African culture like this," to which he responded, "Y'all really like to pretend homosexuality didn't exist in African culture." Though let's be clear, there were plenty of people who threw love his way, including this surprising post from Diddy, who tweeted, "Lil Nas X did that. Be fearless."
One of my favorite moments from the show this season was when I got to sit down with another person who's made a lot of queer history lately, Bowen Yang. Here's our chat covering everything from on-screen representation to his win at the Revry Queer X Awards. Thank you for joining us. Listen, I'm gagging, I'm freaking out. We have Bowen Yang. How are you, darling?
Hi, Andy. I'm good. How are you?
Somehow alive. And also, you're awake somehow. Do you sleep? Like, what is the schedule for SNL?
No matter what the schedule is, my sleep is contingent on if the dogs downstairs in my neighbor's apartment bark.
I can understand that. You just came off of a big weekend. Congratulations also, you're back in season 2 for you of SNL. What does it feel like?
It feels nice. I never think numerically in terms of it because I started 3 seasons ago writing and then did 2 seasons on cast. Everyone's like, is this your 3rd year? Is this your 4th? And I go, the answer is yes. I don't know.
Did you enjoy, or maybe you still do, a mix of both writing versus also acting in SNL?
I think being on the cast sort of demands that you write. I love it all. I mean, performing is nice because it's like, you know, eating your own meal that you've cooked. Whereas like writing feels like you're in the back of a kitchen in a restaurant, like making a meal for someone else.
You just come off of a nomination. First of all, congratulations. And a lot of people are like pegging you of like, oh my God, we see like great representation of people of SNL. Like, do you resonate with a statement like that right now?
For sure, yeah. And like, it's always been this way in some sense. There is something for everybody. I really always think about how there have always been queer people at SNL. You know, for a long time, there were fun little dog whistles or like little winks at the audience of like, this is probably written by a queer person. Terry Sweeney and James Anderson, who was a writer, Paula Pell, Chris Kelly, Sarah Schneider, Jeremy Byler, Julio Torres, Sam J. I'm really thinking about how comedy and humor, what people find funny is this thing that isn't really defined. And I think that's my favorite thing about comedy is that like not everyone agrees on what funny is.
Have you had any like big pressure moments?
Yeah, I mean, the Pride Month sketch we wrote last March after the Atlanta spa shootings, there was a lot of talk about how we would address it. There was this idea that I would go on Weekend Update as myself, which I hadn't done before and which was very nerve-wracking. And like, I wouldn't say I felt pressure, but it was that thing where I wanted to do it some justice.
Do you have like a favorite moment or like a moment you walked off stage and like, I would do it again?
Oh my God, so many. I mean, I got slapped around by Regina King last season and I was like, I would let her dumb me into full submission in any situation. I mean, every week is so different. It meets the level that the host is at.
Also, aside from SNL though, you're a part of a podcast. For people who don't know about Las Culturitas, what is it about and what can you educate them on?
Yeah, it's a very loose, silly podcast generally about pop culture, but specifically about like the sundry things that queer people consume, whether it's we talk about diva worship or we talk about queer cinema outside of that, music, art, fashion, like all of it. It's co-hosted by me and my best friend and also really funny comedian and actor, Matt Rogers.
Have you learned anything in the past year or two that you think has really helped you in your personal life or your career?
Oh my gosh, yeah, definitely. I've probably learned things that I haven't even like been able to verbalize yet. I think about SNL as like a microcosm for like showbiz. If you sort of really steep yourself in like the losses and the wins and like it's kind of not super sustainable. So you kind of have to like think long term or even medium term. Like how do I keep myself steady? That's just very personal to me, but like I think anyone can sort of hopefully relate to that.
We're also here to talk about your being honored with the Revry Visibility Award.
I mean, it's such a huge honor, and like to share it with so many people, you know, it just makes me sort of feel some sense of community even more than I already did. I mean, I came into this platform at SNL already knowing like who I admired, who my friends were, who I wanted to collaborate with, and then to be able to scope that out, I'm just overall just very blessed.
That's pretty much it I have here. Thank you so much for taking like the time to talk to me. Also, congrats on the Revry Visibility Award. Congrats on nominations, and world domination is to come next.
Oh my gosh, I hope not, for everyone's sake, that I don't dominate anything.
While Bowen was out here making us all laugh, this year we also saw more out athletes than ever before winning gold at the Tokyo Olympics. Now here's a look back at our coverage of this summer's Queer AF Olympic Games.
Well, the Olympics are finally here, and at least 157 out LGBTQ and non-binary athletes will be competing in Tokyo for the Summer Olympics. That is more than double the LGBTQ participation that was seen at the 2016 Rio Games. It's also higher than all previous Summer Olympics combined. And this massive increase reflects the growing acceptance of LGBTQ people in sports and society overall. And obviously, as the more people come out, the more visibility there is too. Thankfully, with social media, especially Instagram, athletes also now have a space where they can show who they are personally, not just professionally. Canadian swimmer Marcus Thornmeyer said, "Competing at the Olympics as an openly gay athlete is pretty amazing." Thornmeyer was not out when he competed at the 2016 Rio Olympics, but came out publicly as gay in 2020. He continued, "I'm hoping that by competing at these games, I can show the LGBTQ community that we do belong, and we can achieve anything we put our minds to." Plus, as we know, the number of queer athletes will probably continue to grow. Alyssa O'Lowry, a Canadian rugby player, was not initially counted among LGBTQ athletes until a recent post where she revealed that she and 3 other teammates were also part of the community. She said, "Growing up in a small French town in Quebec, I didn't know or even know of a single LGBTQ person or athlete until I was older. I hope the increased visibility can give young people a sentiment of belonging and encourage communities to be inclusive and welcoming." Go Canada, representing my home country. And this year, around 27 countries will be represented by at least one LGBTQ athlete. The United States has the most, followed by Canada, Britain, Netherlands, Brazil, Australia, and New Zealand, including Laurel Hubbard, who will be the first transgender athlete to compete in the modern Olympics.
Okay, we've had so many stories this season that have left me truly feeling inspired. It was really hard to just pick one favorite, but this story about the ultimate mom ally is one that left such a big impression on us, we just had to bring it back.
Katie Jennifer was a stay-at-home mom for her 2 children. She shared that she knew her daughter Madison was a girl since she was a toddler, and then after taking her to therapy and transitioning her socially, she watched Madison transform from a very withdrawn, depressed little kid to a very happy, vibrant, and outgoing kid. Literally overnight. While that is all very positive, being from a conservative place like North Carolina, she also saw that the world wasn't going to treat her daughter fairly. Immediately upon signing up for a Mommy and Me tumbling class for girls because Madison's friends were there, Madison wasn't allowed to enroll. When Madison was 8, Jennifer also got a call from the Parks and Recreation Department telling her that her daughter couldn't play softball on the girls' team. Then when North Carolina Governor Pat McCrory signed a bill in 2016 that severely restricted transgender and LGBTQ rights, she knew she not only needed to hire a lawyer, she had to become one. She enrolled at the North Carolina Central University School of Law and went on to earn her JD in her 40s. She also joined the National LGBTQ Task Force as a fellow while in law school. Well, you can say she got her law degree just in time, because this year North Carolina, along with dozens of other states, considered a bill to ban transgender girls from participating in school sports. And she, among others, stood up against it, not just because her daughter Madison loves sports, but also because of the shame she has witnessed that comes with, quote, an atmosphere where it's okay to attack these kids. Thankfully, this was one of the bills that didn't make it past the House committee. After the news broke, Madison, who was about to start high school, shared how she might not participate in competitive sports in the future, but does hope to practice diving with her friends.
And that does it for our favorite Culture Q moments for 2021. We can't leave without expressing our appreciation to you for being a part of our Culture Q family this year. Be sure to join us every Thursday at 8 p.m. Eastern, live and always on demand, right here on Revry next year.